You are walking down a street, thinking about something completely unrelated, when suddenly a song starts playing in your head. Not just the melody, the exact lyrics, the rhythm, even the voice of the singer. And the strange part is that you were not trying to remember it, it simply appeared. This happens to almost everyone. A memory, a tune, a moment from years ago suddenly rises into awareness without effort. It feels almost magical, as if the mind is pulling information out of nowhere. But behind that simple experience lies one of the most complex systems in the human brain: memory. Most people imagine memory as a kind of storage system, like files inside a computer. Experiences happen, they are stored somewhere in the brain, and later they are retrieved exactly as they were. But modern neuroscience shows that memory does not work like a recording device. Your brain does not store perfect copies of the past. Instead, it stores fragments. When you experience an event, different aspects of that moment are processed in different parts of the brain. The visual details are handled by the visual cortex. Sounds are processed in auditory regions. Emotional reactions involve the amygdala. Context and sequence are linked by the hippocampus. Each piece of the experience is encoded separately. The hippocampus then acts like a coordinator. It links those fragments together so that the brain can later reconstruct the event as a single memory. But here is the surprising part. When you remember something, your brain is not replaying the original event. It is rebuilding it. The brain retrieves fragments from different neural networks and assembles them again into a story that feels like the past. This process happens so quickly that it feels like a perfect playback, but it is actually a reconstruction. And every reconstruction introduces small changes. Each time you recall a memory, the brain briefly brings that memory into an unstable state. Scientists call this reconsolidation. During this moment, new information can blend into the memory before it is stored again. That means remembering something can subtly alter it. Over time, details may shift. Emotions may change. The brain may fill in missing pieces using assumptions and imagination. This is why two people can remember the same event differently even if they experienced it together. Their brains reconstructed the memory using slightly different fragments and interpretations. Psychologists have demonstrated how easily memory can be influenced. In some experiments, participants were shown videos of accidents and later asked questions about what they saw. When the wording of the questions suggested higher speeds or more dramatic events, participants often remembered the accidents as more severe than they actually were. The suggestion had quietly changed the memory. Even more striking are experiments involving false memories. In certain studies, researchers successfully convinced people that they had experienced events in childhood that never actually happened. By repeatedly presenting suggestions and related images, the brain slowly integrated those suggestions into a believable narrative. Eventually, the participants could vividly describe the false event as if it were real. This does not mean memory is unreliable all the time. Most memories remain generally accurate in their core structure, but the details can be surprisingly flexible. Your brain is not trying to create a perfect historical archive. It is trying to create a useful story. Memories help you learn patterns, predict outcomes, and navigate the world. The brain focuses on meaning more than precise detail. For example, when you remember a conversation, you may recall the overall idea or emotional tone rather than the exact words spoken. The brain preserves the lesson while allowing smaller details. This selective process helps reduce information overload. If every tiny detail of every moment remained permanently vivid, the mind would quickly become overwhelmed. Instead, the brain filters and compresses experiences into simpler narratives. Emotion plays a powerful role in determining which memories remain strong. Events that trigger intense feelings activate the amygdala, which strengthens communication with the hippocampus during encoding. This is why emotionally powerful experiences often remain vivid for years. Moments of danger, excitement, embarrassment, or joy create stronger neural connections that make the memory easier to reconstruct later. However, even emotional memories can change over time. The feelings associated with them may shift as your perspective changes. An event that once felt embarrassing might later become funny. A moment that once seemed insignificant might later feel meaningful. The brain updates memories as it updates understanding. Sleep also plays a crucial role in this process. During certain stages of sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, the brain reactivates patterns of neural activity associated with recent experiences. This replay helps strengthen important connections while weakening others. In a sense, your brain reviews the day while you sleep, deciding which memories deserve to be preserved. This nightly reorganization explains why sleep improves learning and problem solving. The brain is not simply resting. It is reorganizing your past to prepare for your future. Even the feeling of nostalgia is connected to how memory works. Nostalgia often emerges when the brain reconstructs past experiences with softened emotional edges. Difficult details fade, while positive aspects become more prominent. The reconstructed memory feels warmer than the original moment. This emotional filtering can create the feeling that the past was simpler or happier than the present. But in reality, the brain has simply edited the story. Every time you remember something, you are not just visiting the past. You are rewriting it slightly. Your memories are not static recordings locked away in the brain. They are living structures that evolve each time they are recalled. The story of your life exists not as a perfect archive, but as a constantly updated narrative created by the mind. Which means the past you remember is not exactly the past that happened. It is the version your brain has reconstructed. And the version your brain has reconstructed is never finished. It is still being worked on right now. Tonight while you sleep, the brain will quietly revisit moments from today and from decades ago simultaneously, adjusting weights, softening edges, strengthening connections that seem relevant to where you are now. You will wake up tomorrow carrying a slightly different version of your past than the one you went to sleep with. Not dramatically different, not detectably different, but different. This process has been happening every night of your life. Which means the story you currently believe about who you are, where you came from, and what your past means. That story has been edited thousands of times without your knowledge or consent. The childhood you remember is not the childhood that happened. It is the childhood your brain has been reconstructing and revising across every year of your adult life, filtering it through every new belief you adopted, every loss you experienced, every version of yourself you became and then outgrew. That is not a flaw, that is the system working exactly as designed. But it has consequences worth understanding. The first consequence is that confidence about the past should always be held with some humility. The clarity with which you remember something is not evidence of its accuracy. It is evidence of how many times your brain has reconstructed it and how emotionally significant it was during encoding. A memory can feel absolutely certain and still be substantially wrong in its details. The courts have learned this the hard way. Eyewitness testimony, once considered the gold standard of evidence, is now understood to be among the least reliable forms of it. Not because people lie, but because the brain reconstructs rather than records. The second consequence is more personal and perhaps more important. The meaning you have assigned to your most significant memories is not fixed truth. It is interpretation, and interpretation can change. The moment you decided you were not smart enough, not lovable enough, not capable enough, that moment exists in your memory not as it was, but as your brain has been reconstructing it ever since. And each reconstruction has layered on additional confirmation from everything that followed. The original moment may have been far more ambiguous than the memory now suggests. But ambiguity does not survive repeated reconstruction well. The brain prefers coherent narratives. It smooths the rough edges. It resolves the uncertainty. And in doing so, it sometimes builds a prison out of a moment that was never meant to be permanent. This means that the harshest verdicts you carry about yourself may be the least accurate memories you have. Not because the pain was not real, the pain was real. But because the meaning attached to that pain has been reconstructed so many times, through so many filters, across so many seasons of your life, that what you are now remembering is less the original event and more the accumulated weight of every story you have told yourself about it since. And stories, unlike the past, can be retold. The brain that built the current version of your history is the same brain that is capable of revising it, not by erasing what happened, not by pretending the difficult moments were something other than what they were, but by bringing the same reconstructive process that has been running automatically in the background and making it conscious, deliberate, directed towards something more truthful than the harshest version your brain defaulted to in your most vulnerable moments. You are not obligated to keep the reconstruction that was assembled in your darkest season. You are allowed to remember differently, not falsely.